to choreographing Ganpati Atharva Shirsha, the sacred verses very popular in Maharashtra. No Ganesh festival can be complete without chanting of Ganpati Atharva Shirsha. This is one of its kind work and contribution done to the world of Kathak. In this choreography, I have even choreographed the details as to when one should inhale and one should exhale, on which move you should exhale. It goes so naturally with every verse. It's my immense pleasure to note here that my young generation of students in United States are very much memorizing and practicing Ganpati Atharva Shirsha with great interest. Recently, a major group of my senior disciples have completed learning Ganpati Atharva Shirsha. Katha kare so kathak kehlave, the simple description of Kathak. This can be tracked back all the way to the Treta Yuga of Ramayana, where the first storytelling incidents through music that we come across is when Love and Kush arrived in Ayodhya to participate the Ashwamedh Yajna. They sang Ramakatha in front of Sri Ram himself. Valmiki Ramayana describes the glorious Ayodhya, the details of how beautifully Love Kush sang in their melodious voice that touched Ram, who could not reason why his heart is filled with such parental love, looking at these very bright children who are dressed as Rishi Kumar but have a very royal aura in their persona. Emotional Ram not knowing that he was their father, and at the same time Love Kush also not knowing that the King Ram, whose story they are singing, is their own father. So basically, telling story through music and dance can be tracked back as long as the Treta Yuga of Ramayana. Often a Kathak student is told that Kathak has evolved from Rasa Nritya created by Sri Krishna. And of course, we see rich repertoire of moves of Rasa Nritya in Kathak, especially spinning around yourself and simultaneously spinning in circle. Likewise, many kavitas of Brij Bhasha are also integral part of Kathak repertoire. This simply proves that Kathak, which is as ancient as Ramayana, did blossom during the Dwapar Yuga of Krishna. The structure of Ras Nritya was so brilliantly created by Krishna. If you look at the structure of Ras, we actually see the solar system. As Krishna always stood at the center of the circle, and around him in the circular form, all the gopis would dance. They would rotate or spin around themselves and spin in a circular form around Krishna. That's exactly how our solar system is, that all the planets, they orbit around sun. So Ras Nritya moves are definitely one of the major vocabulary of Kathak. We often see Kathak dancers performing todas, paran, would take multiple spins and cover entire stage and in a circular form and finish with a flashy pose. In the tradition of storytelling descended down through centuries and generations after generations, finding its place in various temples, sabhagruhas, becoming integral part of our society and rich cultural heritage. It offered information to the next generation about our great ancestors, and at the same time, it offered entertainment through the artistry. As a Kathak dancer, I am seeing that vast vocabulary of mudras, angik and satvik abhinay is getting shrunk, staying limited to some rhythmic repertoire, which is only one dimension of this dance form. It took more deeper tone when I shifted from my dear motherland to United States 25 years back. Now my karma bhumi. To project our true rich culture to a novice, I almost felt it was my moral responsibility as a true Indian. I became a true torch bearer of our Sanskriti and Sabhyata. On arrival in New York and later in New Jersey, when I connected to the Indian society or Indian people, friends who were of Indian origin, I noticed one common factor. Most of them, majority population of Indians, were highly qualified, very intelligent, medicos, IT professionals or engineering professionals, entrepreneurs who loved their motherland, but they themselves did not have any knowledge or training of any classical art form, but they wanted their children to know, learn, and stay connected with our Indian culture. And so they made effort to enroll them to various classical art forms. However, there were very few who were really knowledgeable and who could teach the correct to the young ones. I'm specifically referring to Kathak. Archana Arts, formerly known as Archana Nrityalaya, was founded in 1963 by my mother and my guru, late Srimati Asha Joglekar, who taught Kathak for 50 years. Being her senior most disciple, I decided to open the branch of Archana Nrityalaya, and now the only Archana Nrityalaya that is here around the world in United States, where I started teaching young students and also preparing them with beautiful classical songs they could perform in social gatherings. It was indeed work at grassroots level. Initial years were going tough, as most of the parents expected their child enrolled today should be performing tomorrow or at the most next week, like instant coffee. However, I stood by my ground, and some students who stood by me with tremendous faith and conviction started performing in a couple of years, which piqued the interest of all. I was working on all fronts, teaching them Hindi, Sanskrit words, making sure the pronunciations are done properly. Sometimes teaching extended to teaching their parents too. Come what may, I was not ready to let anyone distort any word and dance move. Telling them stories of Mahabharata, Ramayana, Dashavatar, introducing them to the various Santa Kavya compositions, right from Mirabai, Tulsidas, Kalidas, Jnaneshwar, Tukaram, Kabir, Krishnadas, Kavi Jayadev, Rasa Khan, and so on, to help them understand that rhythm is universal. I created Kathak choreographies to different genre of music, which opened a whole new plethora before them. Little students blossomed into fine artists, dancers with great insight into the art form. Today, my students are professionally performing and enthralling the audience not only in USA but around the world. I feel like a gardener who nurtured little plants which are now grown and blossoming beautifully. One such most satisfying incident I must share. Very important dimension of any disciplinary art form, which is a classical dance, is the muscle control, understanding each and every limb and seeing to it that it's healthy. I would rather say that dance naturally keeps our body healthy. Myself as dancer who is dancing since age 5 and teaching for almost last 45 plus years, I can tell in 5 minutes the body alignment of any child standing in front of me. Sometimes the heels of her feet are outwardly, sometimes the knees are outwardly, which even her parents have not noticed till I would pinpoint to them. The knowledge of classical art forms, especially dance, have also enabled me to help so many who needed help to overcome their physical limitations. Most interesting to note here is 15 years back, a family came to me to enroll their daughter. They enrolled their younger daughter who was 6-year-old, and after completing her admission form, they asked me whether I would consider to teach their elder daughter who was 8-year-old sitting aside. When I looked at her, I realized that her both legs were affected with polio. She was wearing those shoes with the metal stripes on both the sides of her legs, which supported her legs. I asked her parents, can she walk up to me without shoes? I asked her, would you like to try? She was willing to. Her parents removed her shoes and stood up. She stood up, barely took a step and lost her balance. I decided to teach her. She made an effort. Her willingness to make an effort is all that I needed to see. I picked up the challenge, gave her specific exercises, taught her mother how to massage her knees, her legs, her calf muscles, her ankles with various oils, and started working on her simultaneously. It is very heartwarming to note here that through the dance, the girl was completely cured of polio. Within 2 years, she started wearing 100 gungrus and doing tatkar in Adgun. She started doing gymnastics, and now she lives a completely normal life. She's somewhere in her mid-20s, and probably her current friends and fellows don't even know that she had polio to her both the legs once upon a time. Likewise, another case where an elderly woman who enrolled herself in our dance academy had tremendous tremors to her hands, which were reduced substantially through the dance. The third and fourth time, I was challenged very much at home, where my dear mother, my guru, and my mentor, Asha Joglekar, suffered from paralytic stroke twice. First time, her left side was completely affected, but still she could stand. It took me a month to cure her completely, but she was fine for 4 years. But second time, after her bypass surgery, the stroke was very strong. She was completely bedridden. She could not get off the bed even to go to the restroom. She couldn't walk at all. Her left side of the body, including left part of the tongue, had lost the sensation. When I came to India a few days after her second stroke, I was told about the physiotherapist who was coming and working on her. Every day she would come to her and throw a softball at my mom saying, "Auntie, ball pakado." And my mom would try to catch the ball and the ball would just hit her hand and fall down, and she had no motor skills in her fingers to hold the ball. Her left side was completely lost. I knew I didn't want to be soft with her, but push her hard. She was my world. And to her, I was her world. She would listen to me. And I decided to work on her aggressively, pushing her to talk, yelling at her, "Speak up, I. Don't do mudrabhinay. Don't use dance as a shortcut." Reminding her that she's a dancer, pushing her to do the Shiro Bhedas, the Griva Bhedas, the Drishti Bhedas, the Hasta Mudras, where each and every finger is activated, pushing her to speak first and then challenging her to recite various complicated rhythmic syllables. I kept telling her, "Mom, your right hand is working, so use your right hand to lift your left hand and bend your fingers. Use the good part of your body to help the bad part." My efforts paid off. It took me 70 days. But yes, I did give my Guru Dakshina to my Guru by curing her completely through the knowledge of kathak with purity, which worked as medicine for her. She walked on her feet once again. I feel this is the biggest award God gave me as a dancer, as a guru. I feel humble that I could help.